Yo guys, it's Ndoplex and welcome back to some more Borderlands 4. Don't mind me just showing off my phosphine weapon. I actually got this while I was farming for this video's content, so yeah, pretty cool. Although I will say, a little bit disappointed that the Husky variant doesn't have a phosphine skin on it either. So yeah, pretty upset about that. Pet. And it's dead. So yeah, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how to get every single one of Amon's legendary class mods, as well as what each of the class mods do and whether I actually think they're any good, all that sort of stuff. So if you do end up finding this video helpful or useful, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. I would really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's talk legendary class mods for Amon. Now, there are 6 legendary class mods for Amon. We have the Forge Master, we have the Shatterwight, the Elementalist, the Blacksmith, the Viking, and the Furnace. So first things first, this video is going to contain spoilers. All of these legendary class mods do drop from kind of mainline story bosses and or very prevalent bosses within the game. So just a bit of a PSA for you guys there. So if you don't want to get spoiled in any mainline bosses or prevalent bosses, click away now. Otherwise, let's continue. Now, I think the best way to go about doing this video is to showcase all of these legendaries in what order they appear in the story. So, for example, the first legendary class mod here is going to be the Elementalist class mod, and that is here, and this is obtained from the Primordial Guardian in Scepters. Now, this is for completing the vault of the Fade Fields. If you go down to the Fade Fields, there will be various vault fragments that you can find throughout the map, and once you've found enough, you will be able to unlock the Arch of Inceptors here, kill the boss, and you will have a chance to get this legendary class mod. So let's go ahead and get that now.
Give me something to strike.
Oh! Yo! Let's go! We got another phosphine. Let's go. And we got our Elementalist class mod. Well, that was some that was a fortunate run, wasn't it? And now that we have our Elementalist class mod, is it actually any good? Well, first of all, it looks pretty sick. It's got a nice skin on it. I'm a bit disappointed that the legendary variants aren't actually any different to rare class mods in terms of the looks. Yes, they all have a kind of unique skin, but they're all the same kind of chunk of bone inside of this like weird container. Like if I just look at a random purple one here, see, it's the same chunk of bone with the same things around the edges. I think that's a bit sad that all the skins are the same. But regardless, that's not going to affect how they actually operate. So the Elementalist reads, "Do you remember the 21st night of September?" And this is a reference to the famous song by Earth, Wind and Fire, September. That doesn't really have any bearing on what this class mod does, but I just thought that was a pretty interesting little thing there. This class mod reads, "Whenever an affinity skill gains a stack, all unlocked affinity skills also gain a stack. For each stack of affinity from all skills, Amon gets increased movement speed." Now, I want to say the movement speed is about 5%. It didn't feel super noticeable, so I wouldn't really write home about the movement speed bonus that you get here. The passives can change. I've got shield capacity and skill damage, but these can change, so don't put too much bearing on this. But affinity skills, are they actually worth it? Well, affinity skills are mainly localized inside of the blue tree here, and they are these 3 here. We have Icy Rage, we have Burning Rage, and we also have Thunderous Rage. Each of these, when we get a kill with a respective element, so Shock is going to grant us Shock Affinity, Ice is going to grant us Cryo Affinity, and Incendiary is going to grant us Flame Affinity. Now, for each of these affinities, we're going to gain Action Skill cooldown on the Fire one, we're going to gain Gun Damage on the Cryo one, and we're going to gain crit damage on the Thunderous one. And all of these things are pretty good. These stacks do last quite a long time, and you end up getting a decent percentage of these respective skills. However, you have to invest a lot into the blue tree, and the blue tree isn't really the strongest tree when it comes to speccing out gun damage and that sort of thing. I want this class mod to work. I want to put it in a build and have it be effective, but I'm yet to actually find a build where this slots into effectively and makes it actually worthwhile. And then you have these things tied to the affinities. Like here we have, whenever we deal action skill damage, we can consume shock affinity to cause a bolt of elemental lightning to strike. Now this is kind of like, it's cool, it's an interesting effect, but the fact that it consumes shock affinity means all of our crit hit damage that we've been sort of stacking up over this time, that gets consumed, so then we lose crit hit damage to deal a bit of elemental bolt damage. I don't understand why it's making us consume stacks of this affinities. It doesn't really make sense to me, because we're just losing power by doing something that's not really that great. Here we'd get the same thing whenever we deal ordnance damage. We consume a stack of cryo affinity and spawn this elemental shard doing cryo damage. Again, it's just not really that effective. And then once again, same thing here. Whenever we ground slam, we consume all of our flame affinity and create a flame fissure. This flame fissure kind of sucks. It doesn't do nearly enough damage, and it consumes all your stacks of affinity, so then you lose all your cooldown rate. So the fact that everything is consumed when you use these sort of ulterior things kind of sucks, and it makes gaining these and then losing them a bit of a feel bad system. It doesn't really feel very great to use. I hope that these might get a buff and either make the consumption effects more powerful, or alternatively just remove them entirely and just read like, while we have stacks of cryo affinity, then ordnance damage is going to deal extra damage in an area. That would be really good, but the fact that it consumes it and the effect isn't that great means that this class mod I wouldn't personally super recommend. I think it's kind of just fine average tier, and definitely not Amon's strongest class mod. Now, as for the skills that the Elementalist boost, no surprising, it is boosting these affinity skills. So all of these skills that we talked about before that are going to gain those sort of bonuses, it just puts extra points into these, and it can roll various different things. Now, speaking of strong class mods, our next class mod is going to be the Furnace class mod. This one is dropped from Idolter Sol. Idolter Sol is the first mainline story boss that you will come to, the kind of big boss of the area in his fortress. Pretty cool boss to fight. Reasonably fun fight, regardless if that doesn't really have any bearing on the class one, but this guy is a pretty cool and interesting fight, and you can get to him relatively quickly if you're kind of running through the main missions of the game. I'd say within a couple of hours, if you're kind of focusing main story, you will get to Idolter Sol, and he drops the Furnace class mod. Now, for most of these class mods, I will say I reckon they're probably around like a 5% drop rate or something like that. They feel like a 1 in 20. They took me a reasonable time. I farmed all of these in about 3 hours of my time. I'm not farming on UVHM5 because they don't up the legendary drop rate chances at UVHM5, so it's pointless to farm on that. So I was just farming on Ultimate Vault Hunter mode off and killing these bosses literally in one shot, as you'll see in the footage. So yeah, let's head over to Fortress of Idolter Sol and get this class mod real quick. Oh, we got Harlows and we got Rappers. Okay, and we got Vex's class mod. Oh, hey, I think we got it. Yo, nice. There it is. Furnace. Bomb. Now, with the class mod in our hands, it is a pretty sweet looking skill in this one. Real, like, kind of lava fire effect. I like it a lot. Very cool. The Raging Furnace red text reads, I'm burning, I'm burning, I'm burning for you. Now, I think this is a reference to the song by Blue Oyster Cult called Burning for You. So that's, yeah, just a bit of trivia there for you. And this class mod, what it essentially does is damage from Fellfrost, Hawkleaf, Fulmination Fist, and Stormcutter is converted into incendiary damage. That's a kind of mid effect. Don't really care about this too much, but the 45% flat incendiary damage bonus that comes on this class mod will always come with a flat incendiary damage bonus. It's 45% at max rank, but it's lower, obviously, if you get this at like a level 20 or something. And then the other passive can roll randomly. I've seen damage dealt, I've seen gun damage, I've seen crit damage, so this could be a numerous different things. So one of the great things about the Furnace class mod is the actual skills that it can roll into. This can roll into insanely powerful skills. Raging Inferno is a pretty decent skill. I don't really care too much for Maiming Strike and Mortal Flame, but what this can roll, and this is one that I've personally been using for a few of my builds, is +5 into Dragon's Breath. Now, Dragon's Breath is a skill on the Calamity skill tree that reads whenever Amon activates his ordnance, his next gunshot is converted into incendiary damage. This was a 100% damage bonus, but with +5 into Dragon's Breath, it makes it a 200% damage bonus, which is crazy. Then it can also boost Raging Inferno over here, meaning that our action skill can crit and deal burn damage over time. So if we're speccing into a heavy burn build down the Calamity skill tree, this class mod is really great. It changes these kind of things from being shock to fire, which is kind of fine. I do feel like we need some elemental stuff in Amon. If you're just running incendiary element at UVHM5, you're gonna really struggle unless you just come against flesh enemies. So converting all these into incendiary doesn't really do too much, but the +5 and the bonus here, the bonus incendiary flat rate and stuff like that, makes the Furnace a really strong comp to get. And you can get this one nice and early in the game. It pairs perfectly with things like Jacob's shotguns, where you've got that sort of one shot and low cooldown ordnance, like your throwing knives and that sort of thing, to get these Dragon Breath procs out. Or alternatively, if you wanted to go down the Crucible skill tree and then use your axes to just crit in the face and burn stuff over time, that's really great as well. Just throw like a frost axe at them and then you crit and burn them at the same time. Makes for some really strong builds, and I do like the Furnace class mod a lot. The next class mod to talk about is the Shatterwight class mod. Now, the Shatterwight class mod is dropped from the Primordial Guardian Origio. This Primordial Guardian is the one in the Terminus range. Now, whether you come to the Terminus range first or Carcadia Burn first is kind of dependent maybe on which class mods you're thinking of getting, but the Shatterwight class mod is dropped from the Arch of Origio. Again, collect the vault fragments around the map, and then once you've activated the vault, you can kill the Primordial Guardian and get this class mod to drop. So let's go over there and do that right now. Oh, hey, nice. Bomb. Shatterwight. Yeah, only 2 in Berserk though. Oh well, nice. So here it is, the Shatterwight class mod. A nice icy skin on this one here. And the red text reads, "Time marches on for whom the bell tolls." I think this is a reference to the 1984 song by Metallica, Whom the Bell Tolls, so that's a pretty cool reference there. It seems like all of Amon's class mods seem to be references to songs, which kind of actually makes sense since he is a warrior poet, so on theme there, and I like this, sticking with a kind of theme. And the Shatterwight class, what does it do? Well, our Forge Waves now deal melee damage in addition to other types of damage. Forge Waves primarily dealt ordnance damage, and now they're going to deal melee damage as well. And then our melee attacks while Scourge is active gain increased cryo efficiency and radius, and this will always come with a flat cryo damage bonus. At max rank it is 45%, and at lower rank it's obviously going to be lower. And then it can roll with something random. I've seen, I've got damage dealt on this one, but I've seen a few other things. As for the skills that it buffs, this class mod buffs Berserk, and if you know anything about Amon, Berserk is one of the strongest skills in his entire tree, so managing to get buffs into Berserk is crazy. I have no idea if this can roll 5 into Berserk, and if it can, that is absolutely nuts. I personally never found one that rolls higher than 2 in Berserk, but I am on the lookout, and I'm going to do some more grinding to see if I can find it. As for these other skills, they don't really matter too much in the kind of build that you'll be focusing on doing with Scourge and the Shatterwight class mod. They boost things like fire rate while not aiming in, while hip firing, and gun damage while aiming in. Bit weird. Damage to frozen enemies and bosses is okay. Gun crit hit damages, applying slow damage doesn't really make sense, because if we're using this class mod, we're sort of focusing on a cryo based build. I did literally just release a video on a Scourge Forge Wave build using the Shatterwight class mod, and it does make for a pretty awesome build because we can spec down into Blue Tree and then spec down into the Calamity skill tree to get a bunch of melee damage bonuses that will help out the Forge Wave damage massively. And then of course Berserk is just insane. Whenever we activate our Forge skill, we get slow immunity and deal bonus cryo damage with guns and melee damage, and then this melee damage is now transferred onto our Forge Waves as well, so you can see the sort of synergies popping up here. So it's a really good class mod, and it puts some buffs in, well, one really good skill, and then the other buffs it puts into skills doesn't really matter. So it's kind of a case of the Shatterwight is an amazing class mod and it's like an easy A tier, and then if you could find a Shatterwight with like +5 into Berserk, this class mod's like S++ tier. It's just absolutely ridiculous. You'll just be pumping out immense damage on whatever build you use with Amon. I haven't found any purple class mods or anything like that that can actually roll with Berserk, so I think the Shatterwight might be the only one that can. I've got like over 115 hours on Amon now, and I've never seen a purple class mod roll Berserk. So if it is only the Shatterwight, this con might just be great for just, even if you're not using the Scourge action skill at all, this class mod might still be just insane for the points that you can put into Berserk. So really good class mod here. I would highly recommend it. Next on our list, we have the Blacksmith's class mod. This one drops from Vile Lictor, who is the main kind of story boss of the Terminus range. You can find him in his Umbral Foundry up here. So let's head on up there and see if we can't get this to drop. Oh. We got Rafa. We got Vex. Still no Amon. Oh, triple. There's really... We got a super soldier. Yeah, I mean, nice. We got an Exo and another Gravatar. Wow, dude. Unbelievable. Oh, and then the run after we get another Gravatar. Okay.
Have you come all this way just to die? Test of reflexes.
Oh. Oh, right, we got a double, but I'm pretty sure we got it. So there's a Rapper again, and then, yeah, Amon, the Blacksmith class mod. Nice. Screw you, Bard Lictor. I don't know how long it was here, but it was way too long. And we got a Harming. This weapon is like the worst weapon I've ever used in my entire life. So I'll pick it up. So the Blacksmith's class mod here, it does have a cool kind of lightning skin. As you can see, the lightning kind of bolts running through it, which is a pretty cool effect. It's very subtle, so you can't see it super well, but it's a nice looking class mod regardless. And the red text reads, "The Lord of Blacksmiths keeps forging on," which I think is probably a reference to the song by Falconer in 2001 called Lord of the Blacksmiths. I think that's probably what it's a reference to, but I don't fully know. But if we're going on the theme with Amon and the Warrior Poet, it would make sense for it to be a song. Now, this class mod, what it does is on kill skill, we partially restore all of our Forge drones' duration, and for each active Forge drone, Amon deals increased gun damage. Now, I've heard a few people say a few different things on this increase in gun damage. From my personal testing, it seemed to be around like 2.5 to 3% increased gun damage per Forge drone, which felt quite lackluster. But I had a few people comment on one of my videos saying that it was 10% per Forge drone, so I'm not really too sure. Maybe do your own testing. Regardless, it didn't feel like loads of increased gun damage per Forge drone, so wasn't too kind of bigged up about that side of things. But what is great about this class mod is it allows you to have all of the Forge Drone activation without even speccing into the Forge Drone tree whatsoever, which can be really good for some utility in a few different builds. The skill bonuses are all just kind of into the Forge Drone things. These skills can run from like buffing up the Tempered Pyre skill here, and that they land in Tempered Lightning and Tempered Ice. So you can actually just put this class mod on and pretty much have all of your Forge Drones active. I've never seen one roll into Twin Tempers. I don't know if it can, but I've seen them roll Tempered Pyre, Tempered Lightning, and Tempered Ice. So you can have 3 out of the 4 Forge Drones active. 100% uptime as well, because whenever you're getting a kill, it's restoring their duration. So you can have these Forge Drones up all the time. And it allows you to do things like use My Touch is Death, where we deal melee damage, you get a chance to activate kill skills. We can use this because our Forge Drones count as melee damage, and then we can also use like Fists of Stone, where we deal melee damage, restores a percentage of our Forge skill cooldown. We can spec a lot down into like Calamity and into Vengeance and get all of this utility from the Forge Drones, making it really, really good and just a kind of utility class mod. Personally, I don't think the drones do enough damage to warrant specking into like a full damage based drone build. They just don't seem to output enough damage. But in regards to their utility is really good. So for that reason alone, this class mod is just great. To have 100% uptime on your drones is fantastic, and then on top of that you get the kind of static bonus of 33% Forge Drone duration. So use this class mod and your drones will pretty much be up the entirety of the fight, which is really good. There is currently a bug going on right now though with the Tempered Ice, where when this Forge Drone goes on cooldown, if it goes on cooldown in the middle of the fight, this class mod will actually refresh the cooldown of it, as in it will not, the cooldown will just like be cooling down forever, and whenever you get a kill skill, the cooldown will be increased. So there's a bit of a weird bug. If your hammer does go down and then you keep getting kills, it will just stay down because the cooldown keeps increasing, which is really weird. That will probably get ironed out and fixed later on, but generally the Forge Drones are just up and active 100% of the time. So this is just a really good utility class mod. Maybe when the Forge Drones get a bit more love in the future, this might be more worthwhile, but as for now, this is kind of a solid kind of A tier utility class mod for Amon. For our next class mod, we have the Viking class mod, and this one drops from Queen Callis over in Carcadia Burn. She is the mainline story boss for Carcadia Burn, and she is up in her fortress here, the Moon Called Throne. So let's head over there and take out Callis. Oh. Did we get it straight away? Oh. No. Oh. Oh. Rafa. Oh. What do we get? Oh, what? Pandora Memento. Oh. That's Gravatar, right? No. Wait, can I not get this? That's so dumb. Can I actually not get this? Wow, dude. You. That's so stupid, man. Give me it.
If I had $1 for every hit I would enjoy that.
Please. Oh, yes, it exists. Oh my god. That was a lot of farming. Nice. I don't know how many kills that was, but there's a lot of loot around. So the Viking class mod, here it is. It is very orange and green. If you like the colors orange and green, you will like this class mod. There is a kind of weird, like, bubbly, it's just supposed to be lava effect going through it. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's orange and green, man. So if you like orange and green, then this is the class mod for you, I suppose. The red text reads, once you're hardened in battle, there's no coming back. And I think this is a reference to the song by Sabaton called Swedish Pagans, as there is a lyric in this that says, the wise woman once said, once you're hardened in battle, there's no coming back. So could possibly be a reference to that, on theme, all that sort of stuff. And what does a Viking class mod do? Well, of course, this is going to boost Crucible. Crucible gains +2 charges and gets increased duration, and then grants us increased damage reduction while this is active. So kind of an interesting thing there. The flat bonus is going to be the detonation damage. It will always roll with detonation damage on here. This is max rank at 50, is 45%, lower for lower percentages, and then the other passive can vary, of course. Now, the main skills that this is going to boost up seems to be like a few ordnance style things in the cybernetics skill tree, as well as a few things in the calamity skill tree, like the forge drone kind of effects here. I've seen it, like I say, this one boosts Fists of Stone, and then I've seen them boosting things like reactive armor and cacophony. So it seems a bit random what the skills this is boosting, and I don't think the skills that the Viking class mod have boosted, for me, and the ones that I've seen anyway, haven't generally been too powerful. Now, the +2 charges of Crucible is an interesting one. Crucible doesn't really have that long a cooldown anyway, and already gets 3 charges, so the +2 extra is nice, but doesn't really feel like it makes much of a difference. If Crucible only had like 1 charge and then you got +2, that's going to feel great, but it already has 3 charges, so it's quite generous anyway. And then the increased duration, in my eyes, doesn't really make sense, because when you activate these, you're generally throwing them out pretty quickly to just hit an enemy. Now, you can hold on to these and like melee them. Like if I pull them out now, if you don't throw them, you can kind of sit here and hack away with them, which is fine, but the melee damage is kind of just like, and why would you bother swinging these? I guess the melee speed is a bit quicker, but you could just be punching anyway, so the swinging of the melee to me doesn't really make sense. And then the damage reduction tied onto it while it's active, well, like I say, most of the time you activate the skill and you just kind of throw out an axe to like freeze an enemy or prime an enemy for a detonation. So again, the damage reduction while it's active is a little bit weird, so not really quite sure where they were trying to go with this class mod. The extra detonation damage is nice, as you can get some big kind of boom explosions with Amon, but personally I haven't really managed to slot the Viking class mod into any of my builds quite yet. Now, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that this class mod might get a little buff in the future, or at least just a little tweak to change around what it does, because for me personally it doesn't really make sense. Like, why not, instead of giving it +2 charges, maybe while Crucible is active you gain like 50% bonus melee damage, and then with the increased duration and damage reduction, this would make more sense, and you could turn into kind of like a hack and slash Viking like melee build. Might be kind of interesting, but at the minute it just doesn't really seem to do a lot. It wants to give you more charges, but then wants you to not use the charges by giving you longer to mess around with them. So I don't know, it's a bit of a conflicting class mod here. It's not my personal favorite. I'd probably put it in like B tier for Amon. And the skills that it buffs generally don't seem that strong either. So yeah, that is the Viking class mod here. And last but not least, we have the Forge Master class mod. This class mod, you probably guessed it by now, there has been a pattern going on. Drops from the Arch of Radix over in Carcadia Burn, collect the Vault Key fragments, and then enter the Arch and kill the Primordial Guardian to get this class mod to drop. So let's head over there and do that now. Oh. Oh, Gravatar? Damn. Oh, so Gravatar? Yep. Poo. Oh, hey! We got it. Nice. There it is. So here it is, the Forge Master class mod. Personally, this skin is maybe like my least favorite. It doesn't have any sort of 3D effect styles on it. Looks very basic. I mean, it's blue. I guess blue's kind of nice, but the other ones just do blue in a nicer way. So this is probably my least favorite looking class mod, but that doesn't mean it's the worst class mod by any stretch of the imagination. It still looks very nice indeed. And honestly, actually just looking at this class mod, does it look like it's got like a middle finger going on? What is going on here? Is this a middle finger? Just checking like to the other class ones I have. None of the others have anything on the jawbone. It's just a plain jawbone, but this one's got like Is that like a weird middle finger or something? I don't know what's going on with that. Is that a middle finger? I don't know. If you guys know what that is, let me know. I've never seen that before at all until just literally making this video. But to me, it kind of looks like a middle finger. Anyway, pretty cool. Okay, maybe I take it back. Maybe this is my favorite looking class one. Anyway, regardless, the Forge Master red text reads, "I'm a rolling thunder, pouring rain," which is a reference to the very famous AC/DC song Hell's Bells. So yeah, nice thematic song themed red texts on Amon's class mods, which I think is pretty cool. And what does it do? Well, all of our Forge skills can be used once on cooldown. We're going to gain a flat Forge skill damage bonus, always on this class mod, and then the other one, of course, varies. Now, in general, all of these skill bonuses are going to be going into Forge skill things. And if you don't know, Forge skills are a thing on Amon where all of your action skills can do a different ability by holding F. So for Crucible here, if we hold F, we'd use our Forge skill, and that's going to throw the axes together. Now, the capstones generally affect what your Forge skill is. So technically, Amon's got like 3 base and then 3 in each tree. So he's got like 12 different Forge skills that you can use, which is like absolutely insane. And each are kind of good and interesting in their own right. So buffing up Forge skill damage and then also allowing us to use Forge skills once while they're on cooldown is a very interesting effect. Now, I don't know whether this is necessarily a great effect, because the thing is, if you want to spec into Forge skill damage, all of our Forge skills just have a really long cooldown. You know, you have 35 seconds here. This one's 30 seconds, which isn't too bad. 40 seconds here. Green tree cooldowns aren't too bad, but you head over into the red tree, 65 seconds, 90 seconds, 75 seconds here, then 45, 70, and 60. So all of our Forge skills have really, really long cooldowns. And yes, being able to use them once on cooldown is pretty okay. But when you have stuff like Fists of Stone down here, where we can get percentage restoration of our cooldown every single time a melee attack occurs, it doesn't matter how long our cooldown is, because it's always going to be percentage based. So the cooldown is always going to get restored at the same rate. And I find that I can generally get way more uptime on my Forge skills by speccing into something like Fists of Stone. Or alternatively, you can spec into Smelter, which does give you restoration on Forge skill cooldown on kill skills, which is again a pretty good way to get them back. So in terms of actually using your Forge skills a lot, I don't think that this class mod does an awful lot to help you use them, because like I say, once on cooldown doesn't end up being that much when that's still only twice in like 90 seconds if we're using Molten Royal, for example. So I generally don't think it's great on that front. Now, the skills that it buffs up are all kind of cybernetic skill tree focused. They generally buff up stuff like Forge skill cooldown. Here we have Forge skill damage here. Bellows, which after we activate our Forge skill, we gain increased damage. So a lot of stuff to do with our Forge skill, which as you would expect it to be. However, unfortunately for Amon, his Forge skills just really aren't outputting enough damage to kind of warrant using them too much. It's a bit sad to say, but most of the time when I do a sort of full build, I don't even bother going down to a capstone to get one of these new and interesting Forge skills, because they just don't do enough damage. And the base ones, again, don't really do enough damage, but they're just kind of on by default, so they're just kind of there. Now, a bit of trouble that Amon has is all of his Forge skills are just kind of like melee damage focused, and when you want to spec into anything that's gun based and you don't have any points into melee damage, then these just scale like horribly. They don't scale well at all. And even with the melee damage scaling, I just don't find that they output enough damage. I'd say the best Forge skill he has is probably Ring of Frostfire, where we can gain that increased projectile damage and speed, which is really, really nice in a circle all around us. But unfortunately, the left-hand skill tree of Amon's Vengeance kind of sucks, because Molten Rebuke is just like ass, and then all these abilities just don't benefit Amon whatsoever, really. So getting down to Ring of Frostfire, you just sacrificing so many points for just so many like B tier skills. So in general, I haven't really seen a place for this class mod to shine too much. I think it could maybe be good if the Forge skills got a good buff, because they definitely need it for me to want to sort of spam them more than I do. Now, there are a lot of good effects tied to Forge skills, like gaining increased gun damage, gaining immunity when you activate a Forge skill, and that sort of stuff. but I find you're better off getting these done by going into other means than just the sort of once on cooldown kind of thing, because yeah, it doesn't seem to generally work very well for this. And that's gonna about do it for me today, guys. Look at my shiny phosphine weapon again, because I'm telling you to. Pretty awesome. And yeah, that's gonna about do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. This video did take a very long time to put together, so if you did enjoy it, please be sure to like and subscribe. There's a link to my Discord in the description down below if you feel like joining there, and otherwise I will catch you in the next video. Bye bye.